Behind the scenes, exhaustion began to set in. The cast had been working through long nights, and the physical toll of the crucifixion sequence was heavy. Jonathan Roumie's costume, soaked in sweat, dirt, and fake blood, became a symbol of dedication. Between takes, he'd rest against a wooden post, eyes closed, breathing deeply. Makeup artists would rush in to retouch wounds, but he often waved them off, saying softly, "Leave it. It feels real this way." Even the crew found themselves emotionally drained. Camera operators confessed they struggled to keep focus as they filmed Roumie's quiet suffering. Some turned away between takes to wipe tears. One lighting technician later admitted, "We weren't just lighting a set. We were lighting heartbreak." Faith became the fuel that kept them moving. There were moments when tension ran high, disagreements about angles, pacing, and how far to push the realism. But whenever doubt crept in, Jenkins would pause production. He'd gather everyone, from actors to grips, and they'd pray together. Those prayers weren't long or poetic. They were raw, simple words asking for strength, for humility, for truth to come through the lens. And yet, even with faith, perfection demanded sacrifice. Some scenes had to be reshot multiple times due to technical glitches. A camera battery died mid-take during a critical emotional moment. A microphone picked up unwanted echoes. Each setback could have broken the rhythm, but it didn't. Instead, it reminded everyone that greatness isn't born in comfort, it's forged in chaos. The most haunting challenge came from within. As the actors shouted, "Crucify him," again and again, something began to weigh on their spirits. Several extras confessed afterward that they felt guilty, even though it was fiction. One said, "I couldn't sleep that night. Those words stuck in my throat," another crew member added. You start to realize you're not just filming history, you're reliving it. When the final day of shooting ended, the set didn't erupt in cheers. There was no celebration, no laughter, just silence, the same silence that hung over Calvary 2,000 years ago. The cast and crew stood quietly, looking at the wooden beams and torn fabric around them. Understanding what they had just carried behind every breathtaking frame of the chosen lies, a hidden battle one fought with cameras, wind, emotion, and faith. They weren't just filming a crucifixion. They were carrying a cross of their own. When the chosen released the Crucify Him episode, the world didn't just watch. Shit stopped. The internet, for a moment, seemed to hold its breath. Within hours of release, social media flooded with videos of people in tears, silent reactions, and whispered prayers. Even those who had never watched the series before found themselves pulled in by clips circulating online. It wasn't just another episode of a faith-based show, it became an emotional event shared across countries, languages, and beliefs. For many, the scene hit differently. They weren't watching actors on a set, they were seeing the weight of humanity's cruelty and compassion in the same frame. Viewers wrote about feeling their hearts break and heal in the same moment. Others said it forced them to confront the story they thought they already knew. The chants of "Crucify Him" echoed through living rooms and theaters like a mirror reflecting our own world's noise, judgment, and blindness. Faith communities began discussing it everywhere at churches, podcasts, even classrooms. Pastors showed the clip during sermons. Bible study groups replayed it in silence, struggling to describe what they felt. It wasn't entertainment anymore. It was reflection. It made people ask themselves, would I have been in that crowd? But the impact wasn't limited to believers. Even secular film critics praised the episode for its raw emotion and storytelling courage. One review called it a masterpiece of restraint and honesty, while another wrote, "For once, a faith series has stopped preaching and started showing." It's the realism of the crowd, the trembling of voices, the unflinching stillness of Jesus. It all combined into something beyond cinema. It became memory. The production team was stunned by the global reaction. Cast members received thousands of messages from viewers, saying the scene had reignited their faith or changed how they saw suffering. Some said they wept through the entire episode, others that they simply sat in silence afterward. On TikTok, users shared slow-motion clips of the moment, overlaying it with somber music and captions like "This scene wrecked me." In places where The Chosen wasn't even broadcast officially, Fans subtitled and circulated it themselves. In Brazil, churches organized community screenings. In South Korea, fans gathered online for group viewings and prayer afterward. It wasn't just viral, it was visceral. Dallas Jenkins, when asked about the worldwide reaction, said quietly, "We didn't expect the scene to be shared like this. I think people aren't reacting to the filmmaking, they're reacting to truth." His words captured what so many were feeling. This wasn't about production or performance. It was about encountering something ancient and alive again. The Crucify Him. Scene reminded people that art can still move the soul, even in a world used to noise and speed. It became proof that when truth is told with sincerity, it crosses every barrier: language, culture, belief. For days, social media feeds weren't full of arguments or distractions, they were full of reverence. And that may be the most unexpected miracle of all. Long after the cameras stopped rolling and the lights faded, the echo of that moment remained, not just in the show, but in the hearts of those who watched it. The Crucify Him scene from The Chosen wasn't made to entertain. It was made to remind the world of what love looks like when it costs everything, Dallas. Jenkins didn't want this to be another visual retelling of the cross. He wanted it to mean something. He often says that the goal of The Chosen is not to preach, but to make people see, to strip away the distance between the story and the soul. And in this scene, that goal reached its peak. It wasn't just about showing the pain of Jesus. It was about exposing the truth of humanity, how we can cry Hosanna one day and crucify Him the next. That's why the scene feels so personal. It doesn't let the viewer stay detached. As the crowd yells, the camera doesn't just show their faces, it lingers. It forces you to see yourself in them. The hesitation, the anger, the confusion. The people in that crowd weren't villains. They were us, flawed, afraid, swayed by noise. That's the quiet genius behind Jenkins' direction. He didn't paint evil as something out there. He showed it as something within all of us. But amidst the pain, there's something else, a message hidden beneath the horror. Watch closely, and you'll notice the stillness of Jesus, His silence against the storm of voices. That silence is not weakness. It's choice. It's mercy standing still while the world tears itself apart. It's love that doesn't fight back, even when betrayed, mocked, and condemned. And that's what broke people's hearts. For those who have watched the show from the beginning, this moment felt like both an ending and a beginning. Everything The Chosen built up to, the miracles, the teachings, the friendships, all came crashing down in this one scene. But it wasn't despair. It was revelation. It showed that even in humanity's darkest hour, light never truly leaves. Viewers said they found healing in that paradox. One fan wrote, "It wasn't just Jesus on that cross. It was every time I've failed, every time I've doubted, every time I've hurt someone. And yet He stayed." It's what makes this scene timeless. It's not about history. It's about reflection. The message behind the pain is simple but piercing. Redemption is not comfortable. And grace is not soft. It demands something from us to look inward, to face our own cries of crucify, and to choose love instead. The Chosen didn't rewrite the gospel. It reawakened it. It reminded the world that faith isn't a story told in ancient words. It's a heartbeat, still alive in modern hearts. And maybe that's why this one scene shook the world. Because it didn't just show the crucifixion. It made people feel the cost of love, the weight of forgiveness, the beauty of surrender. Some moments fade as the credits roll, but others linger, echoing long after the screen goes dark. The Crucify Him scene from The Chosen Season 6 is one of those rare moments that refuse to leave you. It's not just remembered. It's felt. The kind of scene that leaves silence in its wake. The kind that doesn't just play, it stays. Dallas Jenkins and his team didn't just film history, they invited the world to step into it. Every scream, every tear, every heartbeat captured on that dusty set became a bridge between the ancient and the modern, between belief and doubt, between storytelling and the sacred. It showed that the story of Jesus isn't locked in time. It's alive, retold, not with words carved in stone, but with emotions etched into human faces. When audiences finished the episode, many didn't rush to the next one. They sat quietly. Some prayed. Others simply stared at the blank screen, unable to shake what they had just witnessed. That's not entertainment, that's transformation. It's the kind of art that reaches into the soul, not asking for applause, but reflection. This is where The Chosen has achieved something few productions ever do. It turned a familiar story into a mirror, one that shows not just who Jesus was, but who we are. The angry crowd, the silent Christ, the weight of choice, it's all there, replaying itself in our world today. Every shout of hatred, every moment of betrayal, every act of mercy, the story continues because humanity. The crowd roars. Dust fills the air. A man stands before them, beaten, silent, and alone. Then 3 words pierce through history. Crucify him. It's not just another moment on screen. It's the heartbeat of The Chosen Season 6, the scene that left millions speechless. What happened behind the cameras that made this moment feel so painfully real? Let's step behind the lens and uncover the story that shook the world. When The Chosen announced Season 6, fans already knew what was coming. The story had been slowly walking toward one of the most painful and sacred moments in history, though. Crucifixion of Jesus. Yet, no one could predict how deeply this season would cut into the hearts of its viewers. Every episode built tension, emotion, and truth, leading to that one unforgettable cry, "Crucify him." The creators of The Chosen knew they were not just filming a biblical event. They were telling a moment that defines humanity. Dallas Jenkins, the director, understood the weight of it. He once said that the crucifixion is not just a sin, it's the center of everything. So when it came time to bring that scene to life, nothing was left to chance. Every detail, from the faces of the crowd to the tone of the sky, was planned to echo the pain, confusion, and chaos of that day. On set, the atmosphere was different. The crew arrived early, but the usual chatter was gone. The extras who would play the crowd were silent, many of them nervous. Some whispered prayers under their breath. Others held crosses or scriptures in their hands. The air felt heavy, as if everyone knew they were part of something greater than a TV show. It wasn't acting, it was reverence. Jonathan Roumie, who portrays Jesus, carried that weight too. He didn't speak much between takes. His focus was deep, his movements slower, more deliberate. He later shared in an interview that he didn't want to just play Jesus, he wanted to feel the cost of what was happening. His quiet intensity set the tone for everyone else. Even the Roman soldiers, shouting their lines, did so with trembling hands. What makes this moment powerful isn't just the script or the camera eyes, the truth behind it. Every cry, every tear, every word in that scene reflects centuries of meaning. The Crucify Him chant isn't just about anger. It's about the brokenness of humanity, the blindness that turns truth into threat. And somehow, The Chosen captured that perfectly. When the cameras rolled, something unplanned happened. The crowd's chant grew louder, roar, until even the crew watching behind the monitors felt chills. One of them said later, "It stopped feeling like a set, it felt real." And when Jenkins finally yelled "cut," silence fell again. Many extras were crying. Some couldn't speak. Roumie walked away quietly, tears in his eyes. That day of filming wasn't just another production, date was an encounter. And for everyone there, it felt as if time stood still. And history replayed itself right before their eyes. Before the first camera rolled. Before a single actor stepped into costume. There was silence. Silence filled with vision. Dallas Jenkins, the creator of The Chosen, stood on set looking over what would soon become one of the most emotional scenes ever captured for television. His goal wasn't to shock or impress. It was to make people feel. He once said, "If we can't feel the cost of that moment, then we've missed the heart of it." From the very start, Jenkins and his team knew the Crucify Him scene couldn't be treated like any other moment. It had to be raw, unfiltered, and painfully human. They decided to film it with minimal music, letting the echo of voices, the crunch of sand, and the breaking of emotion tell the story. Every sound was carefully designed to make viewers feel as if they were standing in that furious crowd, torn between confusion and fear. The vision was simple but daring. Truth through silence, chaos through restraint. Instead of relying on flashy effects or exaggerated performances, Jenkins leaned on subtlety. He wanted the audience to see the contradiction of that day, how love and hate existed in the same breath. The crowd, shouting in anger, didn't realize they were fulfilling the prophecy of redemption. The soldiers who mocked didn't understand the gravity of their cruelty. And in the middle of it all, the calm figure of Jesus stood, not as a victim, but as a willing sacrifice. Behind the cameras, every crew member felt that tension. Cinematographers adjusted their lenses with hands that shook. They weren't just framing a shot, they were framing history. The light was intentionally dull, filtered through smoke and dust, mirroring the moral darkness of that moment. The color palette, muted browns, grays, and dim reds reflected not just ancient Jerusalem, but the weight of human guilt. Jonathan Roumie's performance demanded a special kind of direction. Jenkins didn't give him line readings or emotional cues. Instead, he gave him silence. He told him, "Let the world fall apart around you and just stand." Roumie did exactly that. His stillness became more powerful than any scream could ever be. His eyes, full of both pain and peace, told the story of surrender without a single word. During one take, something remarkable happened. As Roumie stood before the crowd, the extras, real people with their own faith, doubts, and fears, began to cry for real. Their anger turned into sorrow. The energy shifted. Jenkins didn't call cut. He let the moment breathe. What was meant to be acting became something closer to prayer. The team later shared that this scene was one of the hardest to edit, because every frame carried emotion. They didn't want to lose that authenticity. In post-production, even the sound editors left moments of silence untouched, allowing the audience to sit in the discomfort, to feel the world's rejection of innocence. In the end, what made this scene unforgettable wasn't the size of the set or the skill of the crew, it was the unity of purpose. Everyone, from the director to the extras, understood that they weren't just recreating history. They were honoring it. And when Jenkins finally reviewed the completed sequence, he whispered, "This isn't just filmmaking. This is worship." There are moments in film when acting stops being performance and becomes something deeper, something sacred. That's exactly what happened during the filming of The Chosen Season 6's Crucify Him scene. It wasn't just another day on set. It was a moment where belief, emotion, and storytelling collided in a way that changed everyone involved. Jonathan Roumie, the actor portraying Jesus, had carried the weight of this moment for years. But as the day arrived, he wasn't preparing for a role. He was preparing for surrender. He later shared that he fasted and prayed in silence before stepping onto the set. "I wanted to disappear," he said, "so that what people saw wasn't MIT, was him." His eyes carried that truth. You could see both sorrow and forgiveness living in the same glance. The extras, the crowd shouting, "Crucify him," weren't professional actors. Many were volunteers, drawn by their faith and admiration for the series. But when the cameras rolled, something unexpected happened. As they screamed those words, the sound didn't feel like acting anymore. The chants echoed through the desert wind, bouncing off stone walls, raw and painful. Some later said they felt chills, realizing they were voicing the darkest moment in human history. A few broke down crying mid-take, unable to continue shouting. Dallas Jenkins didn't stop them. He let the emotion flow naturally. The camera operators kept filming, capturing tears, shaking hands, and faces twisted between duty and regret. Jenkins believed that true art is born from truth, not control. He didn't want perfect performances, he wanted real ones. And that's what he got. The pain, the confusion, and the awe on screen weren't rehearsed. They were real reactions to an impossible moment. Even the supporting cast, those portraying the disciples, felt it deeply. Watching their teacher being condemned, even in a recreated form, struck something raw inside them. Between takes, silence would settle over the set. Some actors prayed quietly. Others sat apart, trying to breathe through the heaviness of what they had just witnessed. No one spoke loudly. It was as if they were standing at the foot of the cross itself. when the director finally called for the last take. Roumie looked out at the crowd one last time. His face was streaked with sweat and dust, but in his eyes, there was peace. He didn't need to say a word. The power of his stillness filled the scene. When the final cut echoed through the air, no one clapped. Instead, there was a strange, sacred silence, like a prayer that had finished speaking for itself. Later that night, some of the crew members gathered in quiet corners of the set. They didn't talk about camera angles or lighting. They talked about what they felt. One of them said softly, "I don't know if we made a show today, or if we just witnessed something holy." That's the power of art when it steps beyond performance. It reaches something eternal. For everyone there, the Crucify Him scene was no longer just a scene, it became a spiritual experience. One that blurred the line between filmmaking and faith, story and truth. What the audience sees is a flawless moment, a seamless blend of emotion, art, and faith. But what they don't see are the battles that rage behind the camera. The making of The Chosen Season 6's Crucify Him scene wasn't just a creative challenge, it was a test of endurance, belief, and emotional strength. Dallas Jenkins and his crew faced more than cinematic pressure. They faced the weight of portraying one of the holiest moments in history without breaking its sanctity. Every choice mattered. Every frame carried responsibility. The team wasn't just trying to get it right, they were trying not to dishonor it.